Lessons in Cartoon Expressionism.
For this lesson, I wanted to concentrate on a painting that I just completed, and the title of this painting is called Up Through the Ages. If you look, this painting has a vertical composition. I'm very inspired by totem pole art of the Pacific Northwest, particularly the Haida and Tlingit totem poles. I really enjoy their style of vertical storytelling, so I wanted to borrow from this painting. And the painting does have a sort of chronology to it. So it starts at the bottom with a figure, a shamanistic figure, and we'll go into shaman and what shaman represent in a moment. But there's a central figure that's standing next to what are some references to early cave paintings. So cave painting from about 13 to 15,000 years ago, along with handprints, which are very early examples of art that were produced by people many, many years ago, thousands of years ago. And as the composition moves upward, there's different elements and references to moving through time. So alchemy symbols, symbols from ancient Babylonian art, and then flanked on that, on either side of that, are examples of satellites. So I wanted to marry the old with the new as it moves vertically, and then as it moves higher up, you see a deconstructed atom with the quarks that represent the anatomy of the atom, along with a supernova or a star and elements of a star, also a micro and a macro element to that. The element I want to show you how to draw today from the painting that I just described is the shaman character that's in the bottom left-hand side of the painting. So the figure of the shaman represents the divine figure, the figure that's communicating with the unknown. The reason I wanted to choose a shaman to teach you how to draw today is because the shaman represents humanity's most ancient forms of healing, of spirituality, and of community ritual. And those are things that I think are very interesting, and I like to study the way those things are the same and are different throughout the world and through different time.
It's time to draw!
Pencil zone! No.
So one of the other reasons we want to use this basic geometry to set up our drawing is because it allows us to see the macro element of what we're drawing. It helps us to see the large version of it. And then once we can get that and get everything in proportion, we can sort of focus on what are going to be the more detailed elements of the piece. The things that give it its more nuanced character. So again, if you look, these are all basically still rectangles that I'm working with here. This is what will become the hand here, and then this will become another hand. And believe it or not, this is the majority of the piece is already really done. The rest is filling in those details. So I'm going to take my pen here. The first part of the shaman I want to point out here is that a lot of cultures, the shamans would wear deer horns on their head. Deer were seen as many things, but one of the things were that they were able to pass through different worlds, and they were able to experience different forms of reality in many people's opinions, in many societies' opinions. So we've sort of put these deer antlers here, where I had blocked it out before. Here we're gonna continue with drawing the figure in, and similar to the Druids, many shamanistic figures had long beards. So we're going to do that to give him some extra character. I want to leave the pencil lines showing so you can see the beginning and after elements of it. So when you're drawing these yourself, you can understand how these shapes go to create what's going to be the final drawing. So I'm drawing this hand here, and you'll see that it really doesn't deviate much from the original shape. There's a little bit of detail added. True to cartoon form, we're going to give him 5 fingers. And I'm actually going to have the arm sort of float here rather than really attach it. I want to give it a sort of magic quality, so it's not going to be attached to the figure, but it still looks like it's part of it. And one hand is pointing upward and the other one down to show that they sort of operated between the physical world and the spiritual world. Here, draw the feet in. that. Add a little bit of hatching here to give it a little some depth and just to change the variance of the line. And one of the last elements is this shawl that the shaman's wearing, which I kind of made up. Has this design pattern on it that's these circles that are basically connected to one another. And on the upper right-hand side of the painting, this is repeated, sort of to illustrate the idea that this figure is connected to both the bottom and the top of this world that we've created. Put a sight line behind him to give it a little bit of a reference. And now I'm going to come in with a thinner marker and add a little bit more shading. If I was going to do this in color for the painting, I would do this with different colors, but I really like to work things out at the sketch level first. And even with paintings, I usually make small drawings like this to work out different elements of the composition and the storytelling elements and see if I'm going to add anything to it or subtract. And there we go. That's my version of the shaman figure. Again, the deer horns, the shawl, the beard, these are all elements that can be done in different ways. So from this point, I'd like you to use this as a reference, maybe do some referencing online, and I'd love to see what your version of a shaman looks like.
Freestyle Jam! So for today's Freestyle Jam, I want to take the picture of the shaman that we've already drawn, and I want to add some elements to that for you, and we can go from there. So a lot of times fire would be part of a shamanistic experience as a portal or as an element that would allow people to reach higher levels of consciousness, higher states of consciousness. Shaman would go different types of altered states of consciousness, and oftentimes these were known as soul journeys. So one of the other elements I want to add to this piece is the idea of this little shaman, his kind of soul represented like this ethereal little ghost there as well, kind of coming out from his chest. We've got the fire represented. Many times as well, the shaman would perform rituals involving chanting, music, drumming, and dancing. So I think as well here I'm going to add a couple little drums kind of floating around there, around the fire. This one's upside down and in the distance here. So that's the basis of what we're going to work with there. I'm going to add a third drum here, even bigger, to really give it a sense of space, and I'm going to put that in front of the fire there. So there's a middle, front, and back to it. And then here, I'm going to put this little frequency of energy going from the head of the shaman's spirit upward. And that's the basic element there of the freestyle drawing. And then I'm going to bring in the ink element like I did before. And using that as the pencil to guide me, I'm going to put these eyes closed on this. I'm going to have the kind of fire interacting, helping bring that spirit out. And if you'll notice, there's also definitely a deliberate overlapping of different elements in order to give it the idea. Again, it's two-dimensional, so it's an implied space, but it gives the sense of space there. We'll put this fire working, and I'm going to do something to the fire. I'm going to anthropomorphize it by giving it eyes as well, so that the fire as well is seen as having its own characteristics. And I'm going to bring in this frequency, this alternating current, as Tesla liked to describe it, of energy moving this way. And then I'm going to bring the drum element into it. This is the foreground in the front here. This is the middle ground here. And if you look, I'm having them sort of rotate around the fire as planets would do around a star or in an atomic structure. I'm going to put that sort of in the background there. I'm going to put this, add some hatching to give it a sense of light and dark. And there you have it. And then the last part I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and erase all my pencil marks on this one so I can see what it looks like. Clean and simple.
So this painting entitled Up From the Ages is one that I wanted to show you the inner workings of, the beginning, middle, and end of my process. Now I'd like you to take anything you might have learned here and have your own creative process, your own adventure with it, and basically have your own soul journey.
Now it's your turn!
Thank you for watching this tutorial. I look forward to presenting more in the future and hearing back from you, and let me know what you think. For future episodes, please subscribe to this channel or sign up for our newsletter at leboart.com. Check the description below on where to post your drawing and see other people's drawings as well.